Chase Thomas podcast. My nephew needs me to record. See, I already hate it. I hate it.
All right, hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Chase Thomas podcast. From still the aforementioned Chase Thomas, coming to you live from Knoxville, Tennessee, Everything School HQ. Joining me here on tonight's edition of the Tennessee Vols Sports Guys, we've got Rocky Top Insider's own Ryan Schumpert. Ryan, good evening, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well. Were the Falcons off yesterday? I was just, doing a quick look around, saw Ethan's Bears background, and it had the potential, I guess, I don't know what happened to Falcons, but I know the other two of us on the podcast had a very, very bad NFL Sunday.
No, the Falcons they're back. Like, they're just solidly good. The defense stinks. Baker Mayfield dropped back to pass 50 times, and I don't think he was pressured once, which is almost impossible to pull that off. Money well spent on Matthew Judon in that trade. That's been great. A+ all around. But they're not allowed, unless it's John Abraham. The Atlanta Falcons are not allowed to have a good pass rusher for my entire adult life. But hey, no complaining here. First place alone. They're in good position here in late October to host their first ever home playoff game in the new Benz. It's been around for, let me check my notes here, a long time. So that'll be cool. But no, that's not the lead here, Ryan Schumpert. Your team's just getting their brains beat in every single week, but that's par for the course. I'm so, I've known Ethan for so long now that I didn't even want to do this. I didn't want to pardon the pun, I didn't want to poke the bear. But when I see what happens right there, and my immediate reaction was do I drop this in the group chat? Oh, Ethan, I'm sorry. Well, that's brutal. I didn't do it, Ethan. I felt I restrained dropping a joke in there about what happened to your Chicago Bears. Sorry, man. That was tough.
You were better than my other friends. Yeah, that was terrible. I mean, you just come to kind of expect it at a certain point. But even then, I don't know if you watched the rest of the game. The Bears did, for the entire game, played the worst brand of football imaginable, and they still found a way in the last 20 minutes. I was like, we're going to walk away from this, and we're going to somehow steal a win.
Game on the line, backup lineman up the middle. Who says no?
After all this, we had the speed option a couple weeks ago on 4th and 1 at the goal line. We have this weird handoff to a backup offensive lineman on 4th and 1. We have a big run. Roschon Johnson is so good in that situation. No, we have to get cute. We have to do something fun. And it was a nightmare. And then I still, after all that, I'm like, okay, we got it. It's fine. No worries. All's well that ends well. And it wasn't. I don't that was disgusting. Tyreek Stevenson, I don't know if you saw that, him taunting the crowd.
Oh no, we saw.
It's a perfect encapsulation of this team. It is a perfect. They're we're and it's. I don't want to get on a tangent here, so I'll stop after this. But the team is just too talented for this. They are far too talented for this. I mean, Eberflus. I don't know what more you need to see from him. Chicago, McCaskey's. It's time. We got to move on. It's time.
Eberflus.
Yeah, get this
Ever
guy.
Always lose.
All of them. All of them. Get them out.
This is what happens when you cut Titan great Corey Blossom game the day before the game.
It is. What? It's been ever since we got rid of David Montgomery, since we sent him to the division rival, and the Lions are great now. We don't have a running back, or DeAndre Swift had a good game. I won't say anything. He was the one offensive player doing something the entire time, but no.
Did any other Georgia players do anything in that game?
What?
Did any other Georgia players have any highlights in that game? Oof. Man, that's tough, man. Because I saw the people you immediately got to cut. You know what's crazy? That wasn't even the craziest thing in the weekend. Where my impulse, where it's just from the couch, where you're like, oh, and it's in Ryan's division. Anthony Richardson pulling himself out, tapping his helmet. Never seen that from a quarterback ever. Just taking himself out, just tired, and you were like, I don't know. It seems like that was, I don't know. There was a lot of just things you think you would never see in an NFL game, like Tyreek Stevenson taunting the crowd on a Hail Mary call as things are happening in real time, and then Anthony Richardson tapping his helmet to come out of a game because he was tired. I mean, that just, I don't know which one's worse, Ryan. What's a worse look?
I don't think there's I mean, the Stevenson one's probably worse in the micro and the macro. I don't think there's any coming back as a starting quarterback in the NFL from tapping out of the game and being like, nah, I was tired.
And then them saying they were going to run it anyway. It's like, what? That doesn't help. That makes things worse.
No, that makes it worse. You just have to keep him in there to hand the ball off. And
like, McNabb was out here throwing up in the Super Bowl, playing through it. Like, he was out here blowing chunks in the Eagles-Pats Super Bowl years ago. Like, what are we doing?
I grew up during a YMCA playoff basketball game, and I didn't come out. Or I was back in for overtime. I put my heart on the line.
I mean, do you know how hard it is to get, like, everyone unanimously, like, on, like, get up and everything? Yeah. There's no one who's like, look, man, I get it. There was not one just like, there was no both sidesism on either of these things. That's always a tough look, where throughout the entire 24-hour news cycle, you're like, is anyone going to go to bat? Is anyone going to be the contrarian? There were no contrarians. I didn't see anything for either way today.
Yeah, no, there really wasn't. That's really, as a Titans fan, the only saving grace, is that we at least spent a second-round pick and not a top 3 pick on our terrible quarterback.
Can you imagine if you spent a lot of money on a quarterback who went number 1 overall and you're like 2-6? Can you imagine if you're a fan of a team like that right now on this very program?
I could not. It's tough. It's tough.
I couldn't either. At least, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, no,
you're Caleb Williams is good. That's your solace.
He's good. It wasn't his fault. He's going to be fine.
You're going to be okay there, where you're just like, hey, just get Eberflus out of there. Hire somebody else. Get Lincoln Riley in there. Ethan, you're going to love it. Lincoln Riley, Chicago weather. Who says no?
We haven't had a decent coach since Lovie Smith, and that should tell you a lot. Just me saying that.
Dude, Lovie won, man.
Yeah, he did. Smith. I liked Lovie. I don't think we should have got rid of him when we did, but
iconic beard when he was at Illinois.
Iconic. Like Santa Claus.
Yeah.
Iconic beard. Which naturally brings us to Tennessee hoops here on Sunday afternoon, because I told my wife that I was like, yeah, Tennessee's playing a 3:00 exhibition game, charity game against Indiana. And my instinct on exhibition, when you get to your 30s, like preseason NFL, exhibition, like the fall ball for Tennessee baseball, exhibition in basketball for a little bit, like the Hawks obviously have some preseason games. I'm like, I only have so many days on this planet. I can't allocate 3 hours to a game that doesn't count. There is so much there. It goes against every part of me, like where I'm just like, I don't want to do it. I don't. I'm in my early 20s. I'm at Flowery Branch for a Falcons practice in the heat, 100 degrees in the summer. I'm like, yeah, this is a great way to spend a day. What's up, Perry Jerry? I'm grinding the Perry Jerry tape up close. Former Ole Miss Rebel, defensive tackle. I'm all the way in on it. Like, what's his name? William Moore at safety. Thomas Deku? Yeah, I'll sit there and bake in the sun and watch that in my early 20s. Can't do it in my 30s. And I just had to do it. And I'm mad that this game was on television and available on SEC Network Plus. So I had to watch it later on. Tennessee, Indiana. And there are people who are really up in arms, fans who are going to watch this program and have their takes about how Tennessee fared against Indiana. So Tennessee goes down in the exhibition game against Indiana. Ryan Schumpert, Tennessee football on a bye, so we'll get to football here in a second. But the most important development for Tennessee in this game coming out of it against the Hoosiers was what for you?
I mean, I don't really know about development by any means. I mean, again, it's like you said, it's kind of hard to gauge. And I know we have 2 questions on this game, and I guess my 2 answers kind of go hand in hand. The shooting's what stands out. Like, that was bad. I mean, it's the first look at the team post Dalton Connect, and the whole plan for Tennessee to remain competent, remain good offensively is that you're going to have a lot of good shooting around Kai Ziegler, and you're going to be a team that can shoot a 3-pointer really well. I mean, if you add up all the shooting percentages of everybody on this roster, all their 3-point shots last year, I think it's 37.6%, top 20 rank in the country. Now, granted, the transfers took a ton of shots that they're not going to take that many shots. So, it's probably not going to be quite that high. And Tennessee shot the ball horribly in this game. I think it was 0 of 5 to start, 1 of 14 to start. Hit some shots in the second half, end up 8 of 35, but still a bad number. So I think that's what just jumps out to you about it. And Chaz Lanier struggling in this game. I think he was 3 of 16, didn't start, didn't play the last 5 or 6 minutes. But when you talk about development, I'm not sure I buy a ton into that, especially the Chaz Lanier stuff when it comes to him not playing and starting or playing down the stretch. So that aspect of it definitely worrisome, definitely not a good look. But I'm more inclined to think it's a little bit of a one-off situation in an exhibition game than necessarily a true teller or defining thing for what this team's going to be.
Yeah, I mean, we still got a while before any game. What did Connect do against Michigan State? What was his final line?
I think 28.
Okay.
Yeah.
28.
Ethan, what about you? What was your biggest takeaway from this exhibition game before things get started next week?
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I think I'm on a little different side of the spectrum than Chase is, but going back to what he mentioned, I was watching North Carolina versus Johnson C. Smith.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
So I'm one of those guys. I watch all the exhibition games, which is
I
totally
love that.
pointless. It's totally pointless. Exactly for what you said. I mean, you can't take anything away. Bishop Boswell was playing with 6 minutes left in this game. That's never going to happen against anybody Tennessee plays this season. So you can't really look at anything from the macro, I don't think, and take anything, decent from it. So I try and look at an individual level. And the guy I took away, I think, was probably Felix. He looked really good against a really, really good player in Omar Ballo. I think he was rated as the number 1 transfer coming to Indiana. And I think Ballo played very well, and I think Felix battled with him very well. I was impressed by his ability to get rebounds. I was impressed by his physicality. It's early, but I already think he's a step up from what Jonas was, what he can be. I'm not even trying to crap on Jonas. I just think he can raise the ceiling of this team. Felix can, because of his defense. I think he had some issues off the ball defense, but at the rim, he's nasty. They had plenty of lob attempts to him that didn't quite fall, but I think they will as the season goes along. I think that's where a lot of the scoring needs to come from, really, especially if the shots aren't going to be falling like they weren't. And, I'm like Ryan. I that might be a one-off. It might not. It's just hard to tell. There's no real way to know if one guy's going to go crazy, one guy's not. I personally think Chaz is going to shoot a little better than what he did in this one throughout the season. So I'm not too worried about that. But yeah, it's hard to take too much. I think Felix is going to be good. I think that's a good development, good confirmation, I guess, to take away, because coming into the season, it's not like I thought he was going to be bad. I always thought he was going to have an impact on this team, and seeing that against a good player in Omar Ballo, that I guess raised my confidence level for it.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And one thing I was just going to add real quickly, because Felix is the number 1 guy that I was wanting to watch in this game because of that matchup. And then the other thing I'll just add from a true takeaway standpoint, and it's not a massive thing, but I thought Igor Milicic was really good on the boards as well. And to me, that was a little bit of a concern, just with Tennessee going to continue to play the stretch forward this year. And Josiah was such a good rebounder that he kind of helped that not be an issue with playing some smaller lineups. And I know Igor's 6'10", but rebounding and physicality is not necessarily his game. So how good he was on the defensive glass, I don't think he's going to be a great offensive rebounder. To me, that was a positive, and it made me feel good about some of the Tennessee holding up on the defensive end and then on the glass with some of these more offensive-minded lineups they're going to play.
Yeah, there were a couple things that I want to pick y'all's brain about this, because one of the things I saw that people were freaking out about was the post-Zakai minutes, where Zakai sits and Indiana goes on a big run immediately. And that's something that I jot down where, look, it's like a whole Bane, Dark Knight Rises thing for me, watching a lot of Trae Young Atlanta Hawks basketball over the years, where the team just goes to die when Trae Young sits. Like, it's just, the team just falls off a cliff. Ryan is a fellow Hawks guy, the team just falls off a cliff. That's just what I think. I don't know if it's an overreaction, underreaction, but it just feels like we're going to have that again this year.
It is what it is.
Where it's just, I think fans are going to be like, hey, we're going to talk about it. Like, I know I'm going to bring up, like, Zakai are we doing 38 minutes of Zakai again? Are we doing 30? And it's like, yeah, because I just think these games are going to be tight, especially in conference play and some early big games. And I don't know. The early returns, once again, are just like, I don't know how much Rick is going to be able to get away with not playing Zakai some crazy minutes every single big game. Like, because you just saw here against a good Indiana team that it's just Zakai is the engine, and similar to Trey in Atlanta, he's the engine, and when he sits, it's just very noticeable, and things can get ugly in a hurry. And I think you could fix that, but you'd have to go through some lumps. And this is not a team that's going to go through those lumps and are like okay with figuring stuff out and that kind of stuff. Like you're trying to win a championship. You're the Ken Pom or Bart Torvik preseason SEC favorite to win. So it's like you're not really in that position to just experiment behind Zakai and limit those. I don't know. My gut read on that is like that we're gonna get a lot of Zakai minutes. Like that is Zakai is gonna be playing a lot of full second halves, right?
Yeah, I mean, completely agree. The only thing I would disagree with is I don't think there is really much figuring it out if Zakai's not out there. Like I don't see the path to it getting figured out. Like if Zakai, God forbid, knocking on wood, my desk is wood, I'm knocking on it. Hopefully people can hear it. Like if Zakai were to get hurt in the opener next week, I'm not sure Tennessee wins 10 games this season. Like I think it's that big of a deal. That's actually not true because they have 6 byes, and their non-conference schedule's not hard. I'm not sure they win more. I definitely don't think they get to 15. I'll say that. They're somewhere in the 10 to 15 range. So, yeah, he's the engine. He's going to have to play a ton of minutes. I do think they'll be able to do a better job of surviving in 2 or 3 minute spurts than they were in this game because, like what Ethan said, it wasn't just it was a bad lineup even with Zakai out. Like it was Bishop Boswell and Gainey and Darlinson Dubar. I mean, you had 2 guys in there I'm not sure are going to play 5 minutes a game in addition to Zakai not being in the game. So I don't think it's to the point where it's going to look that bad when he's out of the game. But certainly he's going to have to play a very, very heavy workload of minutes. And Chase, you're right. In these games that are tight, Zakai playing less than 18 minutes in the second half would be a surprise.
I mean, it's another thing too, like Ethan, it feels like to me watching this, because I mean, you brought in so many different transfers, and I think in the moment you're excited, and I think they're all intriguing in different ways, but Darlinson DeBar looks to me like the oddest fit here. And I don't know if that's who you're alluding to a little bit, Ryan, but I don't know. Is he a Victor Bailey situation here at Tennessee where it can be kind of streaky? I don't really know where he fits, right? Like I think he's going to be harder to find a consistent rotation spot among all the newcomers. Did you kind of get that when you were watching DeBar and looking at this, what Tennessee's going to roll out?
Yeah, I think I was kind of thinking this like a month ago, and I feel like Ryan was as well. Like it felt like, I mean, Hofstra's not really on the level that like Charlotte was, or that like, North Florida, I guess, wasn't very good either, but it's a weird transition in the first place. I don't really think there's a spot for him. I don't like Jemai is he's not going to play over Jemai. He's probably not going to play over Igor. Not to mention, Barnes has outright said it. He's not playing defense, and it doesn't matter if he was elite on offense. He wouldn't be playing if he's not going to be locking in on defense. And he hasn't shown anything on offense in the minutes that he has been out there. I don't know. Maybe something crazy happens. Maybe they're just working through some weird things. Maybe he's working with an injury. I haven't seen much of Darlinson DeBar, so I haven't heard much out of practice from him. So everything that has come out of camp that I have been able to see has been weird. Everything that I've heard about his fit with the team has been strange. I've heard that he's not locked in on defense. I don't see a path to him playing more than a couple minutes a game. I would agree with that, barring injuries.
Ethan, you just said it. Like yesterday was exactly what I've seen from D Stone in practice. You just forget he's out there. Like he's just makes very little impact on the game, and he only played 5 minutes yesterday. The only stats he recorded were 2 fouls and a missed shot. So he just doesn't seem to impact the game. And I've been, I guess, writing it more than saying it for a while. Like to me, I think Cade Phillips is going to be the guy. Like I thought. I was going to say,
I think Cade's going to play more in DeBar. That was my takeaway. I think Cade's going to play more.
Yeah. when they got Dubar, my thought was going to be like Dubar and Igor are going to battle for the starting 4 spot, and then pretty early on with summer returns, I'm like, all right, Igor's going to start, and then Dubar is going to be his backup. And as we've gone further and further into the fall, I've just continued to have more and more to feel that Cade's going to be the backup, and Dubar is going to be a guy that plays maybe a little bit if there's foul trouble or like Ethan said, some injuries happen.
Man, one overreaction from the game that may not turn out to be an overreaction by January. Ryan Schumpert, you love this question.
The phrasing of this question is so funny to me. With the double negative. I mean, I don't know.
Ain't nobody like me except me. Rocket Raccoon.
I don't know if a lot of people are saying this or overreacting to this. I'll say the one thing that was a problem for Tennessee in this game that I'm skeptical they could really fix is I'm worried about the 2-point offense. Like, I just don't know who can put pressure on the rim. Like, besides Zakai, I don't really know who of the perimeter players can attack the basket and make defenses worry and put defense on their heels. And as we saw 2 years ago, especially when Zakai had to be the go-to guy, he's limited in what he can do there as a 5'9" point guard. Now, I think the hope has to be that JP Estrella can provide some of that off the bench. And look, he's banged up right now. He's been hurt all summer. He's slow getting back. I think he's a guy that's going to be better than he showed in this game. And honestly, back to Ethan's original point with Felix, he did a little bit more than I expected in terms of like getting the ball with Ballo on his back and scoring on a couple nice moves. Like, he did more of that than I thought. So maybe you get some of it there. But to me, that's a worry. And I think this offense is going to look a lot like it has in years without Dalton Knecht and Kennedy Chandler, where at home, most nights, shots are going down at a pretty good clip. They're going to be solid offensively. They're going to be good enough to win a lot of games. When you go on the road, when shots aren't falling, I think this team, things are going to look a little dicey at times offensively, just because I'm not sure where the 2-point offense comes from.
I think that's interesting. And you did mention Cam Carr, right? Like, when Barnes talks about him as the potential all-around player, like, if you're looking at Dalton Knecht's frame and his ability, I mean, Cam Carr is the next in line in terms of guys who has that potential offensive skill set, right? Shooting deep, okay, driving really, really long. Question, still got to work in progress on defense. I mean, Cam Carr is probably the answer there. Like, if he makes a leap, that changes the 2-point offense for Tennessee. Like, I think, like you said, I don't know anybody else who's going to play right out of the gate here. Like, Jordan Gainey is a catch and shoot guy. Jemai Mashak, maybe he attacks more, but that's a TBD. Akpar, obviously not his game. Cade, not his game. Like, Estrella, I think is like you said, probably the best guy in that sphere, but he's been banged up. So it's like, how much can you realistically expect from him in that regard early on this season? I don't know. What do you make of that, Ethan? Is that your biggest overreaction that might end up being true come January?
That is exactly what I was going to say, and it's because it's the glaring one. You know, that's what everyone's saying, especially when you pair it with the fact that what we were talking about earlier, Zakai, who's going to be the guy that's, God forbid, if Zakai can't go 40 minutes a game, who's going to be that guy? I won't harp on that because we just talked about it. I will say one guy. I feel like I've said this since he committed to Tennessee out of Charlotte. I want it to be Igor so badly. I want him to be that guy so badly, because I feel like he has the ability to, and he flashed it a little bit at the start of the second half of this last game. When he is sneaky quick, like 6'10", he is sneaky quick. I think he could get past some people. I don't think it's going to be anything like what we've seen in the past, but just some creation, something to help Zakai out, some sort of something, because I don't think that's going to be Chaz. Like you said, I don't think it's going to be Jordan. The hope is Jemai can kind of get to that level, and he showed some flashes of that. But even with me wanting it to be Igor and wanting him to be that guy that kind of can create a little bit to help Zakai out, I'm not certain that he will. You know, I'm not certain that anybody will. One overreaction, I know this wasn't the question, but I wanted to talk about it. One overreaction that I don't think is warranted is I think Chaz is going to be fine. I think he's going to be a good shooter. I am not sure what's going to happen outside of him. I want to think Jordan Gainey is going to be better and not as much of a shot chucker. I think Chaz probably isn't going to see very many shots that he doesn't like. But I do think he's going to be better. I don't think he's going to be shooting 3 of 16.
But I also think they both need to be shooting a lot. Like Gainey needs to be shooting a lot of threes. Like they need to be confident. They need to be firing. Like Gainey needs to get them up.
Because Chaz has shown he can do that before. And I mean, North Florida is a completely different universe than Tennessee against SEC competition. But
I don't know. The Osprey basketball is different.
I think he's still going to be hovering around the high 30s, 40s mark from 3. I don't think it's going to be a problem.
Yeah, and he gets his shot off so quickly. And
I mean,
he was so hunted defensively last year. Like, yes, it is different, but he does have experience shooting with a lot of contested shots and when the emphasis is on him.
Is there some Dillingham
creation? No, the one I think is funny enough is Antonio Reeves. He's the one that I see. Like, I don't think he's got the athleticism that Dillingham has to be able to get to the shot in the mid range and the weird angles, but I think Reeves with good range on the shot, really good catch and shoot, 1 or 2 dribble creates. He has ability to do some stuff.
How shocked would you be if Chaz Lanier comes off the bench against Gardner-Webb?
I tend to think that it was more yesterday was about him being a little bit banged up too in his foot. So I would be pretty shocked if he's not the starter when Tennessee plays. We'll say when they go to the Bahamas, which I think is like their 4th and 5th game. I won't be super shocked if he's not starting against Gardner-Webb, but I think pretty early in the season he's a starter.
It is. It's kind of funny. Like you just see it play out because you talk yourself into the shooting and this, that, and the other. I think the defense is gonna be fine. I tend to agree with both of you guys where I'm like, I thought that this offense had a chance to be better with some of its parts than last year. I will now be surprised, I think, if this offense is better than last year. And that doesn't mean they obviously there's still a lot of talent and stuff can change, but I don't know. I think that to me is something where you see it and you're like, I don't know. They're still a high floor team and it's still just Indiana. It's an exhibition game, but I don't know. There's just still some stuff where it just looks more like hey, they're right now an A- B+ type deal. And maybe they can get to that A+, that flame-throwing A+ stuff that we saw with Connect and company to get to the Elite 8 last year. But I don't know. We'll see. I think it's a thinner team than I thought it was going to be before the year. Is that also fair? I feel like it's going to be a pretty short rotation. And I don't know. I think it's going to be a lot more clunky offense and kind of frustration from fans than I think I had anticipated coming into the year.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. To me, it feels like it'll be an inconsistent offense.
Yeah.
And Ethan, your Igor point was really good. And the one thing I would go back to with that is like, I think Igor feels like a guy that can create when the defense is rotating, and someone's closing out on him. Like he feels like a guy that can get to the basket and get you some paint touches that scores, but
it's not too physical.
Again,
I agree with that.
Yeah, he's not like an isolation guy in the it just feels like in the shot clock, it's going to be either Jordan Gainey or Chaz Lanier chucking up a contested jumper or Zakai trying to get downhill to force something. But no, Igor's a good point. Yeah, I thought overall I liked how he played yesterday. He's going to need to be a little more assertive offensively, but I felt like he did a good job of letting the game come to him, and he did not look, overmatched against, a really athletic team.
Yeah. I think Igor's going to be a fan favorite, right? Like, I think Ethan's going to be all over Igor. I can already tell this podcast. Like, Igor is just going to, I think he's going to bring the ball up a lot. Like, I think Igor is
so much fun if he was good. It would just be so much fun if he was good because he really can. Like, he can let it go. Like,
he's confident too.
When he gets going, he's legitimately so much fun to watch, and in the bits that I saw at Charlotte. So, but
he's got a fun personality too. Like I don't know how much of that will come off in games or group media stuff, but when Tennessee had their little in-house media day, and you get to go around and talk to some guys one-on-one, I thought he was one of the best interviews on the team and really personable guy.
Yeah, and again, I'm gonna hold out this, and this is my season-long take. Cam Carr is the ultimate wild card with everything. If Cam Carr breaks out, I think we have to throw a lot of stuff out with this Tennessee team that we think we know right now. Like Cam Carr is the ultimate wild card.
Yeah. He's got the talent to change things for sure.
I think the staff knows that, right? Like that's the whole thing. It's like we all know Cam Carr has the talent to flip a lot of this stuff. It's just, will it be this year or next year? I don't know. We'll see. Switching gears here a little bit. Vols bye week. Ethan Stone, the biggest thing you hope the team focused on in their idle week going into Kentucky week this week. I said week a lot there.
I mean, goodness, how best can you work on discipline, on just not shooting yourself in the foot? I'm not sure what you do to address that in 1 week, but that's the problem, because Kentucky is kind of the opposite side of the spectrum, I feel like, from Tennessee right now when it comes to shooting yourself in the foot. Their offense is abysmal, but penalty wise, they're one of the better teams in the SEC, whereas Tennessee is one of the worst teams in the SEC in that regard. It's just the little stuff, the little tiny things. Don't give Kentucky an open door that just wouldn't be there otherwise. Because I mean, if you look at the matchups here, you have a Kentucky offense that can't run the ball, especially can't throw the ball against one of the best defenses in the country. There should be no way Kentucky scores more than 14 points in this one. So just don't give them anything. Don't give them anything, and Tennessee should be fine in this game. It's obviously much more complicated than that, but you know, I'm going to go crazy if you see another special teams penalty or just a dumb turnover that can absolutely be avoided. That kind of stuff. Discipline. Get everyone locked in and say, don't overlook Kentucky just because we should beat them by 60. You know,
60 would be a lot. It's funny. Like, this is the worst Kentucky team that's. I mean, this is the worst Kentucky team that's come in since Heupel's been at Tennessee. But this is also the same Kentucky team that a little over a month ago went into Oxford and beat Ole Miss, who might still be better than Tennessee as a whole right now. I don't know. I think, Ryan, I look at this and I think one of the things that I'm most curious about with the bye for this Tennessee team is they've had 2 good opening scripts. Like, what does it look like if they don't turn it over, they score a touchdown on their opening script? Does this get out of hand early? Is this finally the one where Tennessee's offense just kind of uncorks some stuff against a Kentucky team that may quit? Like, they're in trouble down the stretch here. We don't know which quarterback it's going to be. It might not be Vandegrift, who's been the worst quarterback in the SEC this season. Also, I was combing through Kentucky numbers. Like, they are the second worst college football team, FBS team, in scoring in conference play this season. Second worst. They're averaging like 13 points a game in conference play.
Yeah.
Like, Tennessee hasn't given up
20.
Yeah, Tennessee hasn't given up 20 all season long. So I don't want to get above my skis, here, just being like, I think Tennessee should be fine. Like, I'm not going to lose sleep over Tennessee, Kentucky on Saturday. But like, I don't see it. Like, I think Mississippi State has more potential the next week to give Tennessee problems, because they go downfield. Van Buren's been fun as a true freshman. He's legitimately good. Lebby obviously knows Heupel very well. And I don't know. I think Mississippi State, to me, feels like someone who's going to give Tennessee more problems a week from now than Kentucky. I don't know. My initial read is just like, is this the week, now that you've had another 2 weeks to get ready, to really break things open offensively? Like, that's what I'm looking for in the opening drive.
See, that's where I think these two things, there's the weird dichotomy where there's more outcomes that can happen against Mississippi State. I don't see any possible way Kentucky wins because their offense is terrible. Yeah. Like, frankly, I think right now with the lines, like, it projects Tennessee to win like roughly 30-14. I don't see how Kentucky scores 14 points. Like, their offense is that bad and Tennessee's defense is that good. Now, Kentucky's defense is good enough to, I don't think it's just some like rollover that Tennessee's going to score 30 with all their offensive issues. Now it could, and like Chase said, look, I'm not in the Kentucky locker room, but it seems like Kentucky could easily be in quit mode in this game, especially if their offense looks as lifeless as it might. So I think that's possible. Now I go on the other hand, right? Mississippi State, I think, is more likely to give Tennessee a game because their offense has been pretty good the last few weeks, and it won't even look great last week, but they like had 3 drives to get to the 1 yard line where they didn't score points against Arkansas. Like, that easily could have, their offense played way better than the final numbers looked like. But on the other hand, Mississippi State's defense is so terrible. Like, I think that's the game where I'm more confident Tennessee's offense is going to have a huge game. And then if you compare Tennessee's offense with a huge game with Tennessee's defense just doing what it's done every game this season and have to do anything spectacular, that's the game that I think you could feels to me more likely like you just see some explosion and massive blowout. So that's to me, I think, is kind of the interesting case and the differences in these two games. Where Kentucky game, it just feels like it's a matter of 2 touchdown win for Tennessee, or 3, 4-score win for Tennessee.
Yeah. Do we lean, Ethan? This is going to be pretty ugly. Like, do we just we want to say, like, to Ryan's point, that this is where they kind of break out, but like, could this really, even with the dark mode unis, even with what it was 2 years ago, with the Nico Slaughter's big time hit and the Juwan Mitchell pick and all that, Jalen Hyatt broke out a little bit in this game too. I mean, there's a chance that this kind of is like Florida from a few weeks back, where this is actually like 20-13 at the end, and you're like, that was miserable. But I mean, because Tennessee hasn't scored in the first half for 3 straight weeks, like, it hasn't happened. So until it does, like, Kentucky actually could make this where it doesn't feel like Kentucky's ever going to win, but Tennessee never really actually pulls away, and Tennessee runs the ball a lot, 12 personnel, and just plays keep away and just kind of slogs their way to a 20-13 win. I don't think that's out of the question. Right?
Yeah. Kind of going back to my original point there, like, just don't do it to yourself, and we should be fine. I mean, Kentucky genuinely, like people say their defense is really good. Their secondary is really, really good. Their defensive front is not. I believe it's one of the worst in the SEC in terms of rush yards per game. So theoretically, Dylan Sampson, Bishop, they should have good games. There should not be much of a way for them to be able to stop the run game. And if Tennessee can run the ball, it's going to bring the corners up, and Nico should have more of a chance, I guess, to connect on the deep balls, to connect and get some confidence going, I guess, moving into the second half of the season. Can it be that bad? Sure. But I think it's going to have to be Tennessee that does it. It's going to be go down the field and fumble on the first possession again. It's going to be Nico overthrowing guys. It's going to be an improper game plan to not just attack them with Dylan Sampson like you could at times when the offense is being a little sloggy. Obviously you don't want that. You don't, that would be not great against a defense of this caliber that at times can be a little one-dimensional in what it is good at stopping and what it's efficient at stopping.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Any matchups you're particularly eyeing here in your early read of Kentucky, Tennessee, Ryan Schumpert?
I think in Tennessee's offensive line, like, I think that's the one that's interesting and probably controls if this game's a blowout or not. We saw, to me, Tennessee's offensive line played their best game of consequence against an opponent of consequence in the Alabama game. And Kentucky's got some pretty good guys, whether it's Walker in the middle, or is it Weaver, I think, is the guy on the edge who's had a good season. Like, yeah. Kentucky's got some guys that can present issues. So I want to see Tennessee's pass protection be pretty solid. And if Tennessee's pass protection is solid, I don't know if this is just like some sort of unbelievable bludgeoning where Tennessee scores 40, but I do think you'll start to see more things click for Tennessee's offense, and they will score in the first half and score 30 points in this game if they can do that. But that's certainly not a given with how Tennessee's offensive line has played for a lot of the year, and the fact that Kentucky does have some real talent up front.
The stadium's going to be, I don't know, because I mean, I was in the building for Jalen Wright's opening touchdown run against Georgia, and that was the loudest to this point it's ever been for Neyland. Tennessee scores a touchdown in the first half this week against Kentucky. It's gonna be outrageously loud. Where I think even Kentucky's like, why? Like, it's 7-0. What are we doing here? Like, why is it? Why are they reacting like they just won a walk-off game-winning field goal? Like they just beat Alabama. I don't know. My gut is I think it's gonna be pretty crazy for if Tennessee ends up breaking that streak, because I think it's been weighing on the minds of a lot of Tennessee football fans. I think it's actually gonna be pretty crazy. Like the windows are gonna be shaking in the press box for Ryan if they do score, especially if it's like a big like Dante Thornton, Chris Brazzell bomb from Nico.
Yeah,
like I think it's gonna be pretty wild inside that building if Tennessee does score in the first half, and it's a big explosive play.
Yeah, I think that's completely possible. And I guess the one thing I'll say, circling back to your original question about like what Tennessee worked on in the bye week, what I want to see in this game, one, Square White's not 100%. Don't play him. No point in playing him. Don't just hold him out the next 2 games. And I would just love nothing more than seeing some Mike Matthews reps in the slot. Like people keep on calling for Mike Matthews, and don't get me wrong, I get it. I want to see some Mike Matthews too. But at the end of the day, if Mike Matthews is playing outside as Brew McCoy's backup, there's just not a path to him playing a lot of snaps, more than 10 a game. The path to him playing is in the slot.
Or on the other side, because Dante's banged up and Chris Brazzell has shown a little bit.
Yeah,
but I don't know.
I don't think there is any path to him playing on the other side because those two guys, those are arguably Dante's Tennessee's best receiver, in my opinion. And Brazzell's going to play a lot too. So unless one of those guys truly gets fully hurt and doesn't play, I don't think there's any path.
Or you move Brazzell to the slot.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen.
I mean, that would, that doesn't seem likely. But yes, that could do it too.
I don't know. I want to see Ethan Davis in the slot this week. I want like 8 snaps of Ethan Davis in the slot. Like that's like everyone's calling for Mike Matthews in the slot. I want Mike Matthews getting reps outside, but to your point, Ryan, it's just kind of crowded there right now. But I want Ethan Davis in the slot. Like I still just I think he makes things easier. Like do the screens, the stuff that you were doing with Squirrel with Brew blocking for Ethan Davis. Like that's just as good as a Dylan Sampson run up the middle, a Deshaun Bishop 6-yard gain. Like have Ethan Davis knock over some corners on the outside. I don't know why Ethan Davis is not used more in the slot, not getting more targets. He just feels like such a natural safety valve for a young quarterback like Nico. I just the Ethan Davis one surprises me more than anybody really right now.
Yeah, and his snap counts going through some of them just for Tennessee's offense as a whole earlier today, way behind the other 2 tight ends.
Which I just don't think the other 2 tight ends are producing in a way where that's as defensible as it was early in the year against NC State. And the other thing too, you know what I'm going to say here as we wrap up here with some baseball talk, fellas, is that Dylan Sampson snap count. I'm going to be monitoring this on Saturday. Like Tennessee or Kentucky's front, they're good. You talked about Weaver and Walker and James Dumas Johnson from Georgia. Like they're going to be hitting. And let's look at the carry count. If we're at Dylan Sampson 26 carries again, I'm not a happy camper. I'm just going to be like the 2 weeks here in between games. Cam Seldon, the red shirt's already burned. Like, it's time to play. Like, he's got to be in the rotation. Deshaun Bishop's got to be Ethan Stone's guy. Deshaun Bishop's got to be getting more carries. I mean, he averaged 7 yards a carry last game. Like, you had got to rotate. I'm not saying it has to be even all 3, but Tennessee's got an 80% chance of making the CFP right now. 10-2 is very much on the table. You're now at a point where you can start thinking postseason and you can start thinking about the future. And Dylan Sampson cannot be, and you cannot put yourself in the 2016 Auburn Kerryon Johnson position where he pushes you to the very end and then he's banged up and then you don't have your best player on offense ready when you really need him in the SEC title game. Like you can't do it. I'm going to bang this drum all year.
something to that point also. I mean, you mentioned Johnson, you mentioned Weaver. The pass protection, I feel like, in this game is going to be pretty important, and Bishop is probably the better of the 2 in that regard. So there's another reason to go with what Chase is saying.
Yeah, Bishop was pretty bad in pass pro the last 2 weeks.
Oh, really? I haven't noticed. I haven't noticed anything.
Granted, not a ton of snaps. You know what I mean? Like,
I was going to say, how many snaps was he even in for last week?
I was about to say, I didn't remember because I haven't seen him out that much. But
the one that was real bad was the Florida 3rd down play after the turnover on a short field, and he just got blew up. And
I know exactly the one you're talking about, actually. Now that you say it,
yeah, and I mean, I don't know. We've pounded this drum all last pod, me and Chase. So I don't know. I'm just in the same spot. Like, I agree with where you get to and result wise. I just disagree with the process that you're like, oh, you can just think about the playoffs. You don't need to worry about that. Like, I just disagree with that. But yeah, you should have trust in Deshaun Bishop. And unless the game's really, really tight for 4 quarters, there's no reason to overwork.
Or Peyton Lewis. I don't care. Like, it just has to be more rotation. You have to try other stuff. Like, because the defense is carrying you in a way anyway.
I think
if you're going to go for it on your own 10, you believe in your defense that much, then you can believe in your defense enough where if you have to use a drive where you just try stuff out with Cam Seldon or try stuff out with Peyton Lewis, that, hey, if it sinks a drive or 2 because they mess up in pass pro, whatever. I just think you have to
I don't even think it
more.
needs to be a 3rd guy. Like, why can't it? Yeah, I don't even think it needs to be a 3rd guy. I think Deshaun Bishop can just, get a few more carries. Like, she's capable of that.
Wow.
I think I agree with Chase specifically. I think I agree with him specifically here just because of how important Sampson is to the offense at times. I mean, he carries at times. Not the entire time, but like if he goes out, Tennessee's done. I can agree with that.
Yeah. All right, final thing here, Ryan. You were in Nashville for a huge turnout for exhibition. Is the craze here in East Tennessee? Like Tennessee basketball filling up the TBA at Food City Center. A very easy to roll off the tongue name for the arena down the street here. But Nashville, another big turnout for the Vols, and I want to get your perspective. Who stood out? Who struggled with the Vols in Nashville? And it kind of looked like Tony Vitello may have tipped his hand on who that opening 1 through 9 lineup might be come spring, because one of those lineups, the one with Abernathy at the top, you look at it and you're like, this kind of looks like who could be the day one starters here. Did you feel the same here, Ryan Schumpert?
I mean, yeah, sure. Like, they're trying to figure things out. So, of course, what they're putting together is not, they didn't just throw 9 random guys in the lineup. So,
well,
yeah,
I'm just saying,
sure.
like, it just looked like I could see it. I'm not saying, like, there was no standouts where you're like, oh, I couldn't see that person.
Yeah,
for
lineup. Sure. There was one big remission, and I'm surprised I have to say this for one Chase Thomas, but Dalton Bargo not in there because he's.
I love Dalton Bargo.
Right, I know.
But would you expect him day one? Who's the obvious person that you would put Dalton Bargo in over that person in that lineup on Friday?
Either Colby Backus or Alex Perry, like one of those. I think
Perry feels like he's going to be the first base. He's going to get the shot at first base right out of the gate.
I think he's going to get opportunities for sure. And I would maybe lean towards him being the guy to start the season, but I don't think it's just like some foregone conclusion that it's going to be him either.
Well, hold on. Also, let's settle down on the Dalton Bargo. I've not sold any Dalton Bargo
I was
stock.
surprised.
I love Dalton Bargo. I've just seen enough where it's up and down.
Do.
I saw the whole last season. I don't know. I'm in wait and see mode on Dalton Bargo being the everyday lineup, like right out of the gate here. That's all I'm saying. I need to see it. I need to see the trust from Tony B for Dalton B.
To the original question. It's kind of good because it was just a lot of continuation of what we've seen when we've been over there watching 7 or 8 inter-squad scrimmages to date, where Liam Doyle was dominant. He looks like the Friday night guy, unquestionably one of the best pitchers in the SEC, I think. Now, Jay Abernathy was really, really good. Had another really good day on Sunday. Obviously wasn't there, but had another good day against Troy. He had a nice performance. Andrew Fisher just absolutely annihilates baseballs, just destroys baseball, would not want to be a baseball.
Do you think he's going to be better than Billy Hammock?
How many home runs did Billy end up hitting? I mean, I think I would predict a very similar production. I think Billy hit like 24. I would take the over. I would take the over 24.5 home runs for Andrew Fisher. Now, in Billy's defense, he missed 2 weeks in SEC play when he had the appendectomy. So very easily, if he was healthy the whole season, could have hit like 26 or 27. So that, from a struggle standpoint, or guys that didn't have a good game.
He hit 23.
23, yeah. I would be surprised if Andrew Fisher doesn't hit more than 23 if he's healthy. But again, to Billy's defense, he missed 2 weeks in the middle of the season. He would have hit more too if he stayed healthy. Guys that maybe struggled a little bit, Marcus Phillips did not have a good day. He didn't make it out of his lone inning pitch. The command continues to be a little bit shaky for him. It sounded like Brandon Arvidsson did have a really good day on Sunday against Troy and Jackson. Colby Backus didn't have a great day on Friday. Not that he was terrible. Levi Clark didn't have had a pretty bad day, honestly. He had a hit in his final at bat, but I think his first 3 at bats were strikeouts. Both those guys had good performances on Sunday from what I've heard. So, don't want to just knock on them for what I saw when I know they did well in the second scrimmage. So that's kind of the thoughts. And the one other thing I will say, going back to the Dalton Bargo thing, to me, Reese Chapman's been very up and down this fall, and he did not have a great day on Friday. I almost had that concern with Chapman more than I do Bargo, where it just feels like Chapman's just a little bit of a roller coaster right now. And Bargo has
I think it's because
versatility.
Chapman has the higher ceiling, right? But I think Bargo is the safer floor.
Yeah, probably. But it's not like, he has the higher ceiling, but it's not like on any single game.
Yeah,
you roll him out there, Bargo can't do what Chapman's capable of doing.
Right.
You
don't tell me. I've been a Bargo.
Yeah, no, I know.
Since
you are. You were early. You were.
I was early in the
table for him to
Dalton
get.
Bargo business.
Yes, you were. I'm not trying. Chase is a Dalton Bargo guy. Get me on the record saying it. You see that beautiful Chase Thomas podcast? We need to get a shirt on it that says, quote, Chase Thomas is a Dalton Bargo guy. Ryan Schumpert, Chase Thomas podcast. Print out the shirt and get it made. And I do think Reese ends up being a starter too and has a good year. But just from that, needing to see the consistent trust, I had that question a little bit more with Chapman than I do Bargo.
It's so what it seems like the Jay Abernathy. I was talking to Ben McKee a few weeks ago about it. Like, it seems like the Jay Abernathy, like, is he going to be he's going to be a true freshman starter? Like, he seems like he's just playing too well. Like, he's actually going to be a guy right out of the gate.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's where it is. And look, he might not be a starter on opening day, but I think by SEC play rolls around, he's going to be a starter. And to me, it's almost gone to, and maybe this is me being over dramatic from what I've seen in the fall. Plenty of guys have great falls and end up struggling. But to me, it's like ceiling. He's this leadoff guy that's really good, and his base running it's just havoc. And he's just a traditional leadoff guy. Tennessee hasn't really had a whole lot under Tony Vitello. And worst case scenario, you have that 9 spot that you're not really sure who your starter is going to be. You throw him in the 9 spot. He maybe is a little bit of a work in progress. Yes, That's the phrase I'm looking for at the plate. But he's so good from a speed standpoint that it's just like he can create a lot of havoc. He can bunt for hits and opportunities. I have a hard time thinking he's not going to be a guy. I'm almost more curious what it looks like long term, because to me he's a
2-year or 3-year guy.
3-year, I believe.
Ooh.
Not 100% positive, but believe a 3-year. But to me, it's the long term. It's almost more interesting because short term opportunities all in the outfield. But he was a high school infielder, as a lot of these guys are, and I think he's still more talented right now defensively as an infielder. But so is Manny Marine, who I think has been freaking awesome this fall too. But it's just like hard to see how does this guy get on the field as a freshman, because Tennessee's so loaded at the middle infield spots.
All right, we end here, as we always do when I pick Ryan's brain on baseball stuff. And I'm going to throw it to Ethan, too, for basketball. This is going to be fun. Ryan, 1 through 9, who starts in what spots based on what you've seen to this point in fall baseball and this weekend's games? Yeah, left field. You ready?
All right, left field
opening
Jay
day.
Abernathy.
Left field, Jay Abernathy.
I'm going to go. Give me second weekend. Second weekend. Because I think Colby Backus gets the annual Tony Vitello upperclassman. You work really hard. You're a really good teammate. You're a solid player. Start. I think he gets the opening.
How about SEC play? Let's just important SEC play.
Let's do SEC play. I like that.
Yeah. Left field.
Jay Abernathy in left field.
Center field.
Hunter Inslee.
Right field.
Reese Chapman.
Okay. Third base.
Andrew Fisher.
Shortstop.
Dean Curley.
Oh. Okay. Second base.
Gavin Keelan. Learned that over the weekend. Not Kylan. Keelan.
Okay. Still probably going to go Kylan. It's going to take some time because I see it and I've said it in my head. I've read his name 37 times. It's been Kylan, so it's going to take some time. Apologies in advance. I crushed Ethan with that one. Sometimes you just keep taking swings at the plate. You never know when you're going to get him.
I feel that.
First base.
All right, now here's where I'll get a little weird. Dalton Bargo.
Okay. Catcher.
Cannon Peebles.
Okay. In the weekend rotation.
No, give me DH.
Oh, DH. Sorry. My apologies.
He's on a roll.
Stone Lawless.
Oh! Stone Cold.
Stone Cold. Yeah, I knew you were going to
Stone Cold Lawless.
Yeah, and I could very easily see it being Perry at first, Bargo at DH, but we'll go for this exercise official prediction in the fall, mid-fall. Bargo first, Stone DH.
Okay, 1 through 3 weekend SEC.
Liam Doyle, Tegan Coons, Dylan Loy.
Oh, Dylan Loy. All right,
Loy boy stand up.
There you go. He fits. He's like the most natural transition from Xander to Dylan Loy.
Yeah,
like that. Just
the
kind of
Will
like just good.
The Xander. Yeah. They outside of the 2 years where they just had the phenoms, they like seem like they always have the one guy that's like not super high ceiling, but you feel good. It's going to go 2 times through the lineup, 4 or 5 innings, be really solid for you every week.
There you go. Ethan Stone. Based on what you saw against Indiana, SEC play. No, let's do Bahamas. starting lineup in Bahamas for Tennessee, and who gets more than 5 minutes off the bench in Bahamas.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's easy. Zakai, Chaz, if he's healthy. I'll come back to that. I want to say something about that. Jemai will be the 3, probably. Well, not probably. He will be the 3. Igor, and then probably Felix with. Who's going to be? I mean, the guy's going to be Jordan Gainey. And the reason I wanted to come back to Gainey and Chaz is I just get a vibe. I have nothing to back this up whatsoever. I get the vibe that Barnes really wants Jordan Gainey to be the dude at the 2. I don't know why I get that vibe. It doesn't really make much sense because of Chaz's ability beyond the 3-point arc. I just feel like Jordan Gainey, I don't know. I feel like he's going to be a lot. I don't know. I feel like he's going to be a lot more important this year than fans I feel like think he will be. But he won't start. I think Chaz is going to be the guy in the Bahamas early. He would have to prove it. Gainey would, but I think Barnes wants it to be him.
Yeah, I don't understand though why, because Gainey to me just still feels like, because he's still, I don't know, you kind of need him to be that first ball handler off the bench for Zakai or just the shooting up. I don't know. To me, if you're not going to go Chaz as a starter and he's still, to me, it makes more sense to go. I would probably lean Zakai, Jemai, Igor, Dubar, Felix to see what that looks like as starters.
Whoa.
Like just to see. Like if Chaz is not healthy, if Chaz is not like fully acclimated, because then you at least see what Dubar with the starters at the beginning. Like we talked about Dubar at the top of the show. I bring everything full circle here. Everyone knows this in this program. Yeah. And I at least want to see it. Like you want to see what Dubar looks like with the starters. I don't know. I would experiment. If I was going to do that, I think that makes more sense to me than Gainey, because I think you still kind of know what you have there. You don't really know what you have in Dubar with an older player with the starters. And just see. It might flame out, but in terms of the shooting and the spacing, I could see how that potentially could be okay out of the game.
If he could play like he did at Hofstra, absolutely.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like I don't know. Like maybe he's someone off. Like he's better not off the bench. He might be someone like he needs to start and get the first couple minutes. I don't know.
It's the Chase Thomas. Nobody other than Zakai is allowed to dribble more than 2 times before passing it lineup.
Also,
maybe we'll give Jemai 3 and we'll give Igor 3. Nobody else can dribble more than nothing. Nobody else can just dribble. Period. Felix, you get 1 dribble. D-Stone, you get 1 dribble. 3 for Igor and Jemai. Zakai, do whatever you want.
Goodness gracious. To your point, you've scared me, Ryan, where it's like if Zakai missed time, like I don't even want to know what this looks like. Like you toss it out. Like we were at a point where Barnes was like not starting Zakai after the Colorado stuff. That feels like a decade ago. And now we're like, if Zakai misses a game, I don't know what this looks like. But I'm scared.
Yeah, and I'll go back and say, go ahead, Ethan.
Okay, I feel like you'd have to do some weird like Estrella and Okpara on the floor at the same time.
Barnes wants that. We know Barnes. Barnes has been shot. Like when Estrella gets healthy and the foot's good, he's like, oh yeah. Estrella Okpara is just been like, oh, like he's.
If Zakai goes, I'm telling you, I think that'll happen. I hope to God it doesn't, but I could see it. I could see it.
Don't be afraid. Rick's gonna be. Don't be afraid to throw Cade Phillips or D-Stone out of the 3 in that lineup either.
Like I'm having this visual of like Coach Gainey and Coach Clark just like holding Barnes back as he's putting the starting lineup out to the officials to let them know, and then there's Cade at the 3 and Estrella at the 4 and he's like no, and he's just like Barnes is just like dragging them to the scorers table to put out the 5-man unit. Yeah. Oh my god.
No, what I was gonna say again, I'm going back to it like. The 10-win thing, that was over dramatic. That I don't think that's actually true. But I do think Zakai getting hurt has the real possibility to look like the 1920 season once Lamonte had surgery. Like I'm afraid it could look like that.
Yeah.
Maybe probably not as bad as pre-Santi, which was only 1 game, but boy was it awful. But I'm just not sure who handles the ball and who can create stuff from the perimeter without Zakai out there.
I mean, it'd have to be Chaz. Like, it's just like Chaz would have to play nearly 40 minutes a game.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Cam, you probably just have to play Cam through some lumps because of what he could potentially give you when it's good offensively.
Yeah, just have to hope Cam becomes Superman.
Yeah. And maybe Bishop's good right away. I don't know. Could Bishop Boswell just be good? I don't know.
I honestly don't remember anything about Bishop Boswell at all from that exhibition game. I might have to. I have no tape.
He got it in. He got it in transition in a 2-on-1 and dribbled off his foot, so that wasn't.
Yes.
But
never mind.
It happened.
He's just built more like I don't know. I would buy more stock into Bishop being more of a factor than Freddie DeLeon last year. I think he has a much more likely.
He's going to get the Freddie opportunities.
Yeah,
and he's probably going to do less things that make Rick Barnes pull his hair out. But I still have the same questions about him running point guard.
Ryan, what did he do before he dribbled it off his foot? Because I remember whatever it was semi-impressive.
Yeah, I think he maybe got I think he maybe got some sort of strip at like the top of the key, and then somebody else got it and threw it up to him, and then it was him and Zakai on a 2-on-1. And he should have gotten it to Zakai so Zakai could get it back to him, and he just was going 1-on-1 with it. I think that's what happened. Not positive, but I do think you're right. I think he made a nice defensive play.
Something happened because there was that, and then another time I was like, oh, that could have been Zakai's lob attempt to Cade. I think he did it twice, but there was one of them I think in the second half that Cade.
First half.
Zakai missed him. In fairness, because Zakai was a little high on him, I think. But there was another one of them that it was Cade's fault. I'm butchering this, but
there was one in the second half that you're right. It was not a very good throw. Cade had a really good. He grabbed it and made a layup. There was a 2 possession sequence that was almost incredible for Cade. He blocked a shot, got the ball, went coast to coast, jumped, was kind of between a dunk and a layup, missed a layup, and then this next possession was when Zakai kind of at half court threw him to lob. And it was it wasn't an easy play by any means, but one Cade needs to make.
Yeah,
I can't believe I let 2 minutes just go by with Ryan and Ethan analyzing an exhibition Vols hoops game as a Bruder film over here where it's like
play by play of it.
Oh my god, we
don't need Cade Phillips exhibition.
Nobody can never say that I'm not a team player on this program. Nobody can ever do that. That was wild stuff, getting as granular as humanly possible. But we love it. That's what you're only getting. This is the only. Not only are we the only Tennessee Vols sports podcast, but we're the only ones who do this very thing each and every week. No one else gets this granular.
I'd like to see anybody else talking about Cade Phillips' missed lob attempts. I'd like to see anyone else.
Built different on this program. Ryan Schumpert, what can the good folks check out from you and the team over at RockyTopInsider.com this week?
Plenty of Tennessee football stuff getting ready for Kentucky. I'm sure I'll make it over to Lindsey Nelson Stadium at least once, if not twice this week, for some more scrimmage thoughts and stats. And then Rick and I will have our complete Tennessee basketball preview podcast this week. Last week I did one with Kevin Sweeney of SI, which was fun for about 30 minutes, kind of getting his thoughts on Tennessee, and then also where he thinks Tennessee stacks up, and a little bit of SEC talk in there as well. So that one was a fun one, kind of more in the macro level, and then Rick and I will get into the weeds of things later this week.
There you go. Ethan Stone, what about you and the team over at Saturday Down South this week?
Yeah, pretty typical stuff over there as well. Obviously, I think 5 weeks. I may be wrong on that. 5 weeks to go in the regular season, and then got the college football playoff full coverage for all of our teams. I've got bowl projections going out. Actually finished them up today. So I'll have that every Monday moving forward. My best attempt at it, at trying to figure out the college football playoff as well. It's a fun year this year. I mean, there's so many teams still in competition for that number 11, 10 spot. So it'll be a fun race to the finish, and we'll have full coverage of it at SDS and Saturday Tradition as well.
There you go. Ryan Schumpert, Ethan Stone, always a pleasure, and I will talk to y'all next week.
Nicely done, nephew. The Chase Thomas Podcast. Hell yeah.